ازيكم يا شباب، ايه الاخبار؟ السلام عليكم. um, we are going to discuss something called normalization in the database, and we will have first normal form, second normal form, and third normal form. We will talk also about the functional dependencies, and we will see what does this mean, and full dependency, transit dependency, partial dependency, and all of this stuff. We'll start by this example. We have a hospital. This hospital have patient number, patient name, and this patient is staying in ward number 11, and then he has bed number 84, and this is the ward number, and this is his prescription. He has drug, whatever drugs or medicine he's going to take, drug number, drug name, description, and dosage, what dosage he's going to take, and methods of admin, oral or intravenous, and then unit per day, how many minutes, like millimeter, 50 millimeter or 10 millimeter or whatever, and when he started this medication, and when he will finish this medication, how long it will take. Okay, so basically if we are going to, this is a form, they fill it in the application, and then we need to tabulate it in a table format. When we go for a table, we will have the patient number, and then first name, ward number, or full name, and then ward number, and then ward name, bed number, and then all of this. If you look at this table, we find redundant data, lots of redundancy. Here is like groups of data related to only one patient, and then group of dosage, group of different things. So in this format, or this table, we call it denormalized. There are a lot of redundancy if we are going to have it, to look at this way, and we need to normalize it. The first normal form, which is the first stage we reached, they were saying, let's talk about something called dependency first, before going to the first normal form or second normal form. If we look at this table in this format, we see that the primary key is the patient. Everything is dependent on that patient, so it is full dependency. So first name is dependent on the patient number. If I know the patient number, I can get the full name. If I know the patient number, I can get whatever ward he is in. If I get the patient number, I get definitely, once I get the ward number, I get everything here. So all of these attributes is fully dependent on the patient number. Okay, that's good. This is the first part. We call it full dependency. If I know this primary key, I can get anything else in this table. So they are all dependent on him. And then there is something called partial dependency. Partial dependency, if we have a composite primary key, like for example, if we have a student, and a student number, student name, and student address, and then we have course name and course number, and then we have a table called the student course and the grade of this student. So if we have a student course, let's do it this way, and let me open Excel. So if I have a student table, we will say student number, we will have student number or S number, student name. Okay, and a student email, for example. And we have another table called course number and course name. Course number and course name. Okay, so for example, student number will be 1, and then Ahmed, and then Ahmed at hotmail.com. Okay, so our primary key in this table is the student number. This is the primary key. Okay, if I have here to Nader at gmail.com, and here there is another table called whatever CS1, computer science 1, we call it first courses database, and we have CS2, programming 1, for example. So this is another table. So if we have another table which will tell me what is the grade of Ahmed in the database course, so we have another table called C number and S number, and another table called with the grade. We will have this one like, yeah, and then grade. So in this table, in these three tables, I can say student number 1, he took database, which is course CS1, okay, and his grade is A. And he's not good in programming, same student, he's not so good in programming, he got course number CS2, and he got like B. Okay, so what I'm saying here, this is a composite key, a primary key that is consistent of two keys, is not one attribute. Okay, what if I took this part or these two parts, I put them here in one table, okay, and then what if also I took this gentleman, I put him here. So if we go like this, okay, if we see this thing, why email is, yeah, if we look at this one,
Okay.
yeah,
I think it's good enough battery.
okay, perfect. Gotcha. Okay, I'm full already. So, sorry guys. So yeah, what are you saying? If we look at this table, if we do it this way, we'll have a lot of redundancy. If we see, I'll have this row again repeated again here. If I remove this one and this one, just delete. Okay, so this is my table. This is how my table should look like. If you look at this table, you will see, as I said, redundancy. Ahmed is repeated twice, and if I'm talking about also Nader and Nader,
Your attention, please. Airport security alert.
Nader,
Please maintain control of your bags at all times and report any unattended baggage or
is
suspicious
taking
activity to the
at
nearest law
gmail.com,
enforcement official or TSA representative.
and he is taking this course. And he got an A also, and or he got B here, and he is taking this course. Sorry, Control Z.
Alright, let's try this one more time.
He's
You ended the call. I'll do it.
So this is how it look like if we combine everything together. And here another A, and I'll take this again like this, 2 and 2.
Okay.
You can see here there is a lot of redundancy. Database is repeated twice, CS is repeated twice, programming is repeated twice, Ahmed is repeated twice, his email is repeated twice. If we look at this is a denormalized table. We need to split it, and we will see how we split it. But before going to do this, if you can see, who is the primary key in this table? The primary key is this one,
Okay.
and this one together. If I know student number and course, I can get everything in this table. Student number 1, so I can get Ahmed and email. If I know this CS, I can get that is the database. If I know both together, I can get his grade. So both together is the primary key for this table. Okay, so this is what we call it full dependency. Everything in that table depending on the primary key. So the grade is fully dependent on the CS number and student number. Okay, this is full dependency. But we have something called partial dependency. When the primary key is a combined key of 2 attributes, and there is something that dependent on part of the primary key, like here, Ahmed is dependent on only the S number, which is part of the primary key of the S number and C number. So the primary key here is S number, comma, C number.
You did, bro.
This is the primary key. And who is dependent on it is the grade. Grade is dependent on this. So this is what we call it full dependency. Full dependency. So I cannot know the grade until I know both together, both of this. I know the student number and the course number. Then I can get the grade. But what about the name and email? These two. If I say name is name, comma, email is depending on what? Is depending only on the S number. So this is what we call it partial dependency. They are dependent on something that is a part of the primary key. Same thing when we talk about the course name. Course name. Course name is depending on C number, and C number is the part of this primary key. So this we call it partial dependency. Okay. So we need to keep in mind these terminologies, and then
No.
we will understand more. We will use it in the normalization. Okay, what if I say there is a teacher number and a teacher name? A teacher number and a teacher name. Okay, this teacher number and teacher name, the teacher name is dependent on the teacher
Yeah, my
number,
future wife.
but the teacher number is not a part of anything.
Yo,
So
give me her
we
last
call
name
it
real quick.
this we call it transit dependency. It is the teacher number is dependent on the course.
On? That's gonna be so hard
The
to find.
this teacher is giving this course, but the
Oh, I can't
teacher
find it.
name itself is not dependent on the course. It's dependent on something in transit. It's something in between, which is the teacher number.
I'll do the office.
So the transit dependency, when we have a column that dependent on a column, and this column itself is not a primary key, it is dependent on something else. So if we
No.
say
There, I was ganged up with all those girls at the end.
teacher number
I didn't get her one-on-one.
teacher number is a partial dependency because it is dependent on the course number. So teacher number here is partial dependency. However, teacher name is dependent on the T number. And the T number itself is not in this picture. It's not a primary key. It's not in a partial dependency on anything. It's dependent on something else. So here we call it transit dependency. Dependency. Okay. So this is the three kind of dependencies that we know about it. Full dependency, when everything is dependent on the
How do you
primary
spell
key.
the sister's name?
Partial dependency, when we have a column that dependent on a part of the primary key, which is like here, part of the primary key. And transit dependency,
How do you
when
spell
we
the
have
sister's name?
something that is not dependent on anything related to the primary key, but it dependent on something transit in between, and this transit thing is dependent on the part of or
How
part
do you
of the
spell
primary
sister's
key
name?
or a part
HU
or
HU?
dependent on the primary key itself. Okay, let's go back to our
Oh, I can't
example
find her.
here.
She's not in your followers. Maybe follow
So in this example,
Nope.
this is again is not normalized. This is, we call it denormalized table. We have something called repeated groups. These groups are repeated for this attribute, and this row is again repeated for this attribute, and this row is dependent again repeated for
Okay,
this
okay.
attribute.
Yeah, I'll load it
So
up, I'll load it
to move it from denormalized form to first normal form, we are going to
So,
put this,
try to help me find the
repeat
sister
this
first.
multiple time. Each one of this will be
Actually, I found her.
separately
She's like-
and
she's
dependently
married to a
only
guy with, like,
on
a
here.
blue
So
shirt
what we are going
and
to
she's
do,
wearing blue.
we are
Yeah.
going to do this way.
No, this is her Facebook.
We
She's from.
repeated
He's married. He's married to Nather.
we repeated everything here.
Okay.
Instead of gather these in one row,
Neither,
we
neither.
split them in 3 rows. So splitting them in 3 rows make us this
Study
column,
University
this
Georgia 26,
attributes or
30,
this row
John Hopkins.
dependent on only this row. So it is, instead of having one row that have multiple group of data, we have 3 rows. This is in this case in a first normal form. The second normal form, when we have when we remove
Because they're
the the partial dependency.
Islamabad.
We will go to this one, our example here.
No,
Here,
it's
if
not
I want
using
to
no results.
make it in a second normal form, then we need to remove all the partial dependency. So we need to split this.
I see it now. Damn. Dude, she's
So we will
coming.
have
Oh
a
my
table
God.
called.
Oh my god. This
We will have this table.
insane girl, bro. Okay. I'm doing it right now.
Okay,
Of course.
but
Be like, my boy was
keep the
interested.
IDs here
He'll
to
literally
connect
come to
the
Idaho
previous
and come
ones.
see you. I will.
So
I
ID
literally like take
ID will be
my whole
kept
life savings and drive to Idaho.
here
I'm
to
just
keep the
kidding.
original one. What we are going to
Okay.
split also these two.
Bro, if you saw
This
this
is
girl,
we are
you
going
would
to
send
split
me a
it
photo.
in a different table.
I am. I'm sending it to the group chat. Just making sure
We
I
will
send it
have
to the right
a
group
different
chat.
table here, but again we need to keep this.
We found another picture.
Let me put it in a different way here for them. Let's keep this column here.
You should have seen her personality. She was so inclusive. She literally.
Okay, and by doing this we split the tables that we have into three kind of tables. We have a table for students,
Her thing is plus
a
one
table
my
for
bio
course,
data as her status with her white coat.
and we keep
Bro,
the
I was
teachers
just
here.
gonna marry her even if she wasn't a doctor. If she said I was like, a cleaning
Okay.
lady, I was like, yo, let's go.
Okay, so teacher number one, his name is Ahmed. Teacher
Bro, you
number
should have seen this girl. She was great.
two,
She was so
his
nice.
so not Ahmed. Let's make it Ali.
I still can't get over this though.
And
So
teacher
weird.
number two, his name is Omar. And then again, class one or
Because she's
CS1 is
just like a
is taught by
child. I just
Ahmed,
can't. Remember,
taught by Ali. So
if
it's
I
one,
can't,
and this
I just
Ali,
like when I think her first impression.
and this two is Omar. So now these tables, we have three tables. I'll just put them in a different place
Yeah, exactly.
to be more organized. So we have a table here. It's called courses. Table called student. And this table that we have grade. So
Yeah,
this is the third table that we have. Okay, in this scenario we have something called second normal form.
okay.
The tables are in second normal form, but if you look at this table, then we have some problem here, because I'm repeating the primary keys. I'm repeating here the primary keys. So basically this table in this case will have only two rows. So by doing this I am eliminating the redundancy that we have before, and we're shrinking the data. Here is the same thing. We will remove these two. So I'm eliminating the redundancy. So in this case there is no redundancy, or less redundancy than before. instead of having Ahmad and email and everything in the original table, we split them and we remove the redundant from the original tables here. But still, this is what we call it second normal form. So in the first normal form, we remove the repeated group, we split them in different rows, and then in second normal form, we delete or we separate the partial dependency in different tables, keeping the primary keys in as a foreign key in here. And still, the last thing is still we have redundancy here. So what we do is, in the third normal form, we took this part and put it aside here. He is hungry. Okay. In this case, we have a third normal form. We removed the transit dependency in a separate table, keeping the primary key here and putting here a foreign key. But again, we have redundancy here, so we will remove these two. So we eliminated the redundancy as much as we can. So from first normal form is eliminating the repeated group, split them in a different rows, and then second normal form we take the partial dependencies into different tables, keeping into consideration the foreign keys. And the third normal form, we eliminate the transit dependency. We take it away from the table to eliminate to reduce the redundancy. What we gain here is I'm happy that if I change teacher number 2 to Ibrahim, I change it in only one place. I don't go and change it each and every time here. It's only changed here, and I know Ibrahim number 2, so I know that this course is taught by Ibrahim, this course is taught by Ibrahim. In the previous one, I need to change Ibrahim here and I change Ibrahim here. If I change Ahmad, I need to change Ahmad in each and every course, in each and every row. By doing this, we change, if we do any update or delete or insert, we insert it in one place and it affects in all other places. This is the moral of the story about first and second and third normal form. Thank you, and we will use this in our design when we talk about the logical design, when we transfer from ER diagram to tables in SQL Server. Thank you, and see you in the next session.